Hey guys, welcome back to more relationship stories. At 17, I got pregnant and my parents immediately started planning my baby's adoption without asking me. They set up meetings, chose families, and made it clear I had no say in my own future. But when I finally found the courage to fight back, they gave me an ultimatum that tore our family apart forever. Let's dive right into the story. Our XXL relationship story from r/relationships is titled "Parents are forcing me to give my baby up for adoption." So I guess I will start this off by saying that I am 17 and until a few months ago I had zero plans of being a parent. Zero. I was halfway through my last year of school, already stressing about finals and figuring out what came after graduation. I was not dating anyone, I didn't go out much, and I sure as hell was not thinking about having a kid. That changed real fast though. It happened with someone I worked with. He was a part-time night shift stocker at the grocery store. He was older than me, only by a bit, and we had talked on breaks here and there. It was not a relationship really, just a one-time thing. A dumb decision that I made when I was stressed and tired and feeling weirdly invisible. I was not on birth control. I didn't think I needed to be because, like I said, I was not active. So yeah, fast forward a month and suddenly I am staring down at two pink lines in my bathroom, trying not to throw up. My parents are what you could call old school. Church every week, under my roof, my rules kind of people, super strict. I knew telling them wouldn't go well, but I still didn't expect what actually happened. They did not yell at me, they didn't cry, they just looked at me with this cold disappointment and said something like, "Well, now you will understand consequences." They told me that I was keeping the pregnancy. Abortion was not on the table, it was murder according to them. Adoption was already being discussed that same night, but not with me. It was discussed between themselves. I was just sitting there silent, like some side character in a movie about my own life. A week later, they had set up an appointment with an adoption agency, without asking me of course. They called it a responsible next step. I was not allowed to argue. I was not allowed to think, and I get it, I messed up. I'm not saying I should not be responsible for my choices, but I also felt like I had lost every ounce of control over my body and my future in one conversation. I did not even tell the guy right away, the father I mean. I was not sure it was worth it, but eventually I did. I sent a message, he responded kind of casually, said he would help with whatever I chose. However, he would need to travel for work, so he wouldn't be around much. Basically, sorry that sucks, I will send money if you need it. And that was that. The adoption agency lady was nice, I guess. But even she seemed more focused on making the process smooth than actually helping me process anything. So she explained how it worked, how I'd meet potential adoptive parents, how I'd sign forms after giving birth, how it could be open or closed. But every time she said, "When you give your baby up," something in me clenched. I didn't want to. I didn't know what I wanted honestly, but I didn't want to hand over a baby to strangers and walk away like it never happened. And yet, every time I tried to say that out loud, my parents would shut me down. "You don't have the money to raise a baby. You're a child yourself. You will ruin your life trying to be a mom." They made it sound like they were doing me a favor, so I started looking at family profiles online, happy couples, smiling parents. One had a pool, another had a dog that supposedly loved babies, and I kept thinking they'd probably be better than me. But it didn't feel right. It felt fake. The worst part was school though. At first, no one knew. But then the bumps started to show and suddenly everyone did. The whispers, the stares, teachers acting weirdly distant or overly nice, people I used to sit with at lunch just stopping, like pregnancy was contagious or something. I became invisible. Except to my parents, who made sure to remind me daily that they were allowing me to stay under their roof until the baby was born. After that, it was up to the adoptive family. They were not gonna let me keep the baby, not under their roof, not while I was a minor. That was the deal. I remember crying alone in the bathroom thinking I'd never forgive them, that I'd rather sleep in a park with my baby than give it away. One night I got a message on social media. It was the father's older sister. She had heard from him and wanted to talk. I agreed to meet her in secret at a cafe. She brought her mom along and they were surprisingly warm, calm and kind. They told me they were not judging me, they just wanted to offer support. Apparently they were not thrilled with how detached their son was being either. His mom even said, "He has got some growing up to do." They said that I had a choice, that if I didn't want to go through with the adoption, they could help me. I could move in with them temporarily. They were not rich, but they had space. They could help with the baby, and if I decided to keep it, I would not be alone. I cried like an idiot right there at the table. It was the first time anyone offered me anything besides judgment. It took weeks to build up the nerve, but I finally told my parents. I told them I was not going through with the adoption, that I had somewhere else to go, that I was going to keep the baby, and you would think I told them I was joining a cult because they exploded. My dad called me ungrateful. My mom said I had destroyed my future. They accused the father's family of trying to steal the baby. I stayed calm as I could. I said I was leaving, and they told me if I walked out, I could not come back. No support, no money, no calls, so I packed. It took all night. I left the next morning. I did not even say goodbye. The father's mom picked me up and took me straight to their place. It was quiet, peaceful, nothing fancy, just safe. I got my own room. I started going to doctor's appointments without fear of being monitored or shamed, and honestly, I felt human again. I kept in touch with the father, but only barely. Eventually, we talked more seriously. I told him I was keeping the baby. He did not fight me on it. He said he would do what he could. After some very serious talks, we decided to get legally married, not because we were in love or anything, but to make things easier. I was 18 at this point, by the way, housing benefits, insurance, the legal stuff. He said he would step by financially when he could. I was not thrilled, but I agreed. And by then, I was 6 months along. I looked like it, moved like it, slept like garbage, but I was starting to feel proud. The baby kicked for the first time during a rerun of some reality show, and I burst into tears. Still, I felt lost. My parents had not contacted me, no apology, nothing, just silence. School was out of the question by that point, too late in the semester to catch up. I planned to get a GED later. One step at a time, I started packing again, and this time to move to where the father was working. And by the way, we had found some housing. The day I left the father's family home, his mom gave me a big hug. She said, "You're braver than you think." And that meant everything to me. Right now, I'm sitting in the guest room of our new place. My back aches. I'm 34 weeks along. I've got a doctor's appointment next week and my first prenatal class tomorrow. My husband, that's still weird to say, is doing basic job training stuff away from home, but he sends me good morning texts. It is not a fairy tale. I am scared. I don't know how I will handle labor. I don't know what kind of mom I will be. I still cry sometimes when I think about how things used to be. But I know this. I made a choice, not one that somebody forced on me. It was mine, and I'm keeping my baby. And yeah guys, before we read the update, I gotta say Godspeed to OP. This is such a difficult situation, not only for a young person, I mean it would be super hard for everybody no matter the age, but given how young OP is, it is even harder. And by the way, if you would be in this situation, would you go no contact with your parents? Honestly, OP's parents in this story seem absolutely crazy. How can you basically just throw away your child like this and offer absolutely zero support? Absolutely despicable. However, if you enjoy the relationship stories, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video, because that would help me tremendously to not drown in the damn YouTube algorithm. Anyway, update to the story. So it's been a while since I wrote the original post. I did not think I'd ever come back and update this, but so much has happened and maybe someone out there needs to hear how things turned out. So I had the baby, labor was long, scary, and nothing like what they show in movies. I won't sugarcoat it, I was in pain for hours. The hospital staff were kind, but it was overwhelming. My husband couldn't be there, he was still out of state for work. He got permission to come back for a couple days after the birth, but not during it. And yes, I ended up needing an emergency C-section. Things were not progressing, and the baby's heart rate was dropping. I was terrified. I remember being wheeled into the operating room, cold and shaking. I kept thinking, please let him be okay, just let him be okay. And he was. He came out crying, loud and strong, just over 7 pounds. They laid him on my chest for a minute before taking him to get checked. I cried harder than I ever have in my life. When I held him later, I felt everything all at once. Fear, relief, love, guilt, pride. He was so small but so real. I kept whispering, "You are safe now. I've got you." The hospital stay was rough. C-section recovery is no joke. I could barely move the first day. They showed me how to feed him, how to change diapers, how to track feedings. I slept maybe 2 hours in total, and my husband showed up the day after. He looked exhausted but happy. He held our son like he was made of glass. We were not really romantic. It was still a strange technical marriage, but there was a quiet understanding between us in that moment. We had brought a life into the world that mattered. After 3 days, I was discharged. We went back to the place we had. 1 bedroom, cramped kitchen, ancient carpet, but it was ours. I set up the grip by the bed, stocked diapers, cleaned bottles, tried to rest when the baby slept, which wasn't often. The first 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. I was healing from surgery, my hormones were everywhere, the baby cried constantly, and breastfeeding was a disaster. I felt like a failure. I had moments, dark ones, where I thought maybe my parents were right, that I was not ready, that I had ruined my life. But then he'd fall asleep on my chest or grip my finger with his tiny hand, and I'd remember why I fought to keep him. My husband did what he could, job training kept him busy, but when he was home he helped with diaper changes and feedings. He was not great at it, but he tried. That mattered more than being perfect, and around the 4-week mark things started to get better, the baby started sleeping longer stretches, and I got into a rhythm. I figured out how to use a baby carrier so I could clean or cook while holding him. I stopped crying every day. We named him together, just the 2 of us. It's a name that is meaningful, though I won't share it here. It was the first time I felt like a real parent. But then something I did not expect happened. My mom reached out. She sent a short message through a mutual family contact, just, "I hope you're well. I would like to talk." It hit me like a truck. After all that silence, after the threats, the ultimatums, she wanted to talk. I ignored it at first, I was not ready, but a few days later I responded. I said, "I'm alive, he's healthy, what do you want to say?" She called, I didn't answer, she left a voicemail, she said she had been wrong, that she didn't know how to handle what happened, that she still didn't agree with my decision, but she missed me, that she wanted to meet her grandson. I cried for a long time after hearing that. My dad did not reach out, still hasn't, I'm not holding my breath. Eventually I agreed to meet my mom in public, just the 2 of us. I did not bring the baby yet, but she looked older, tired, she apologized, but not completely. She said things like, "I was trying to protect you," and "we thought we were doing what was best." I did not argue, I just told her how alone I felt, how hurt I was, and how I'd begged for support, not for shame. She asked if she could be part of my life again. I said maybe, that I would think about it. A month later, I let her meet the baby. She cried when she held him. She said he looked like me. She stayed for an hour and then left quietly. She did not push, she just said thank you. We talked a few times since. It's awkward, not like before, but it's a start. I'm not sure if I'll ever be close to her again. I don't think I will ever forgive her how she treated me when I needed her the most, but I also know people make mistakes and sometimes they try to fix them. As for the baby, he's 6 months now, he just started rolling over, he giggles when I make stupid faces, he hates carrots but loves mashed banana, he reaches for me when he's scared, I am his person. I still have hard days, money is tight, I'm tired, and my body looks different and my brain feels different. Some days I wonder who I am now, but I don't regret it. My GED is on hold until he sleeps through the night. After that, I will sign up. I want to go into nursing eventually and maybe pediatric work. Being around all these doctors and nurses showed me how much it matters. My husband and I are figuring things out. We've talked about counseling, we've talked about separating down the line, but staying cooperative. Right now, we're a team, not romantic, just partners, but it works for now. His mom visits when she can, she adores her grandson, calls him my little miracle. I don't correct her, I don't hear from my dad though, not even on my birthday. I don't know if I ever will, but that is okay. I made a choice when everyone tried to take it away from me. I was scared, I was young, I had no idea what I was doing, but I don't regret it. Also, I've got a long road ahead, but every night when I rock my baby to sleep, I know I made the right call. I'm not just surviving anymore, I am living. Update number 2. It's been almost a year since my son was born. I was not sure that I would write another update, but something happened recently that made it clear the story was not fully finished, not really at least. To everyone who followed my story, thank you. The support meant more than I can say. I've gone back and read your comments on my old post more times than I want to admit, usually at 3 AM during a bottle feed or after a long day when I start second-guessing myself, but here's the truth, I'm doing okay. Actually, more than okay. My son is thriving, he has this big crooked smile that lights up every room. He laughs at everything, the vacuum cleaner his own feet, the dog barking on TV. Watching him grow has been the most grounding experience of my life. I finally started my GED classes online. I study during naps and late nights. It is hard, but I want this. I want a future for us that doesn't rely on anyone else. My husband and I are still legally married. We are on good terms, he visits every weekend he can, and we co-parent. He is not the love of my life and I'm not his, but we are civil and that is enough. And by the way, guys, is anyone else impressed by how these young people handle this situation? I mean, sure, at first they screwed up, but the way they handle this now is really amicable if you ask me. And by the way, if you would have been in this situation, would you have ever gotten back to your original parents? Like, would you have ever forgiven them for essentially forcing you to give up your baby for adoption? I'm not sure if I could ever forgive them, and I would probably go no contact. Anyway, the real reason I'm writing though is about my parents. So my mom tried to come back into our lives again. It started small. She would text pictures of flowers and she said it reminded her of the baby, and then little messages like, "You must be doing so well, I'm so proud of you." I didn't respond at first. I wanted to believe she had changed, that she regretted how she treated me, but something always felt off. Then one day she called and left a message asking to visit for the weekend. She said she and my dad wanted to reconnect as a family. I listened to it 3 times trying to decide how I felt. I did not want her here, but part of me, the teenage part, still craved her approval. I asked her to meet me in public again, alone. I left the baby with my mother-in-law. We sat across from each other at the same little cafe as before. She smiled like nothing had ever happened. "I've been talking to your father," she said. "He thinks it is time that we move past the drama." I asked her what she meant by drama. "You know, all the tension, the fighting, the things we said. We were hurt, you were hurt, but that's the past. You have a beautiful child now." I just sat there, silence. Then she said this. "Maybe next time you'll make better decisions." That was it. That was the moment it clicked for me. She did not feel sorry, not really. She still thought that she'd been right. She still saw me as the teenager who messed up, not the mother raising a child alone after being kicked out of her home. I asked her calmly, "Do you regret what you did?" She blinked. "I regret how it turned out. Not what you did?" She didn't answer. I got up, I left the cafe. I have not spoken to her since. A few days later, she sent one final message. "If you don't want us in your life, just say so. But know that you're cutting off your kid from their grandparents." So I replied, "Yes, I don't want you in our lives, and I don't want your idea of family anywhere near my son. Goodbye." I blocked her number, I blocked my dad's, even though he never tried to reach out. I blocked them both on everything, and I have not looked back. It was not easy, but I've never felt more at peace. My life is not perfect, I'm tired most days, money is still tight, and I'm juggling a lot. However, I wake up every morning knowing I'm doing it on my terms, not under the weight of shame or control. My son will grow up knowing love, real love, not the kind that comes with conditions or ultimatums. He'll know that his mom fought for him, chose him, protected him, even from her own parents. And maybe someday he will read this. Maybe he will understand why I walked away, why I had to, because sometimes healing means cutting ties. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who think they own you. So if you're reading this and you are stuck in that in-between place, torn between guilt and self-respect, just know it is okay to choose peace. It's okay to protect your peace. It's okay to say, no, I did and I've never looked back. And yeah, guys, if you enjoy these relationship stories, please don't forget to like the video to show me the support for these kinds of stories. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. There is a lot more to being blind than simply not being able to see. For one, there are different levels of blindness a person can have, and each one requires different levels of care and attention. You have people who can see a little, which is partial or low vision, complete blindness, which means you cannot detect any light at all, congenital, which is when you are born with. Legal blindness, which is when vision in at least one of your eyes is 20 out of 200 in your best seeing eye, and then there's nutritional blindness, which occurs through lack of vitamin A. As you can tell already, there's only one instance when a blind person is fully blind. The other examples of blindness still offer some level of vision, but my son is congenital. He was born as any other baby is born, but as he grew up and developed, his eyesight did not, which meant he still had the sight of a 1-month-old baby. When babies are born, their eyes don't work right away. It's basically like being legally blind. They can make out shadows and shapes, but you have to get real close to them in order for them to pick out any details. I think my son described it best when he was about 9 years old and told me that it was like someone had turned the lights down really low in the middle of the night when it was foggy. Bless him, she never made a fuss. He never seemed to get upset that he could not experience the world as other children do. When he was 10, he got his very own guide dog so that he could run around with a little more freedom as before. He always held my or his father's hand when we would go out. We tried him with a stick for a little while, but he didn't like having to carry the thing around, swinging it about and getting worried about hitting people. So we invested him into the program, and after an extensive evaluation period, he got his very own guide dog. He spent months going to the training center, bonding with all the puppies that could potentially be his companion for life, until one relationship stuck out the most with a black Labrador called Clover. Every time my son went to the training center, Clover was always the first one to greet my son, and they bonded so quickly it was almost as if they were born for each other. 6 months later, we brought Clover home with us. It was not long before we started to see the problems arise from owning a guide dog. Not with the dog himself or even with my son, but with other people. The general public does not seem to understand that a guide dog is not like other dogs. You cannot just go up to a guide dog and start petting them or playing with them. They are a highly trained service animal, and all the extra fusses can disrupt their training. Most of the time people will accept that they cannot fuss a guide dog and will be content with basking in Clover's cuteness from a respectable distance, but there are some people that can get really upset when you tell them no and why. This is especially so when it comes to little kids wanting to fuss a cute puppy dog, and more than once I've rendered a child to tears because of the flat-out refusal to allow them to touch the dog. I always feel so bad, but it cannot be helped. They are a service animal, not a creature of luxury. I think the worst came a few years later when my son was coming to his 15th birthday. With the help of the guide dog, he was able to go out a lot more, meet up with his friends in town, and generally explore the freedom most kids take for granted. We were having a family barbecue at the local park. My son was running around with his cousins, and no word of a lie, his favorite game to play was a spin on the blind man's buff. All the other kids would run off to hide, and my son, with the help of his guide dog, would sniff them out. They were not too far from the central gathering, using a cluster of trees to hide in and play around. Things were going great, and it was turning out to be a really good day until sometime into the afternoon, one of my nieces runs up to me and tells me that a Karen was being mean to my son. Worried for the worst, I run off to investigate, and sure enough, there was a Karen with her little Karen offspring having a go at my son while his cousins were trying to shield him from Karen's ranting. When I arrived, Karen calmed down a little bit and told me that my son refused to let her son pet his dog, telling lies about him being blind and that Clover was a service dog. I told Karen that my son was blind and that no one is allowed to fuss his guide dog. Karen's face screwed up in such a manner, I can only describe it as that she was desperately trying to think. "He's not blind," she tells me. "I saw him looking at his phone." Now remember, my son is not completely blind, he has the sight of a newborn baby, something I don't think Karen would have understood, not that she gave me a chance to explain, as I tried to say that he was not completely blind. "My mother's blind," she snaps matter-of-factly, "so I know what blindness looks like. His eyes are clear, not cloudy at all." I think she must have been talking about cataracts, which is a completely different form of blindness, but I doubt Karen had the mental agility to understand that, as she completely refused to listen to my explanation. Her son was less entitled. I think her son was more attuned to the situation than she was, and he looked younger than my son. He no longer wanted to pet the dog and just wanted to move on, but Karen did not want to admit defeat. Every time I tried to explain my son's blindness to her, she would talk over me until she was practically shouting. This went on for about 5 minutes, and then the most unthinkable thing happened. Karen snatched Clover out of my son's hand and stormed off across the park. "My son deserves a cute dog more than you. You're clearly terrible owners." And away she went. I was stunned. My son started crying, and it took a second for me to come back to reality. I chased after Karen and got incredibly angry when I saw her kicking and injuring my dog after he got upset. When she then flat out refused to give the guide dog back, I slapped her across the face so hard I'm pretty sure she still has my handprint on her cheek to this day. So I take the dog back to my son and we carry on with our family barbecue. The mood has been fouled a little, but after an hour or so we are all laughing and it's become quite the story to tell people. Well, that is until the police showed up. They pulled me aside to question me. Karen had called them and wanted to press charges for assault. I was worried, to say the least. All the burgers, hot dogs and chickens I had eaten threatened to come back up, but when I explained that Karen had tried to steal my son's guide dog, they were thankfully understanding. They took my statement as quickly as they could and left me to the barbecue, which now became even more interesting. Several weeks later, and I'm expected to appear in a court hearing. During this time, I had gotten messages from all the family saying the police had called to request statements and witness reports and whatnot. I was worried, sure, but I was also confident that I was in the right, even though a lot of people said that I should not have hit Karen, and the court hearing then begins, and the first thing the judge asks me is it true that this woman, he points to Karen, tried to steal your son's guide dog? I say, yes, your honor, and that was it. Karen ends up getting sent to prison for attempting to steal and injuring the dog. We take pet theft very seriously in the UK, and now has to attend a compulsory sensitivity seminar because of her behavior towards a blind kid. I don't know if Karen left the courtroom upset, angry or constipated, her face was a picture. And yeah, Ripe stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. I would say that Karen definitely got what she deserved. You just don't mess with blind people and steal their dogs. And before we end the video, let's read a cute story from our own subreddit posted by user Yondering Wolf. It is titled Cat in Hat Got Me. So this is about my daughter's cat when he was still a kitten. His name was Samson Chomper, although we called him Sammy. She had adopted him from a local farm at 8 weeks old. Now a little background first. When she went to adopt him, she told the woman that she had some money and wanted to buy him. The woman told her she did not have enough money to buy him, which made her sad. But the woman said that the price was a lot of love, which was the price she would have to pay with. Needless to say, she came home with him. He would also, as a kitten, stay with my girlfriend, who by that time had lost both legs below the knees. He was like therapy for her. Well, then one day he went missing and we knew that he couldn't have gotten out of the house. We looked all over the place and couldn't find him. We were worried about telling our daughter that we lost him. A couple hours later and I was ready for my second cup of coffee, which at the time was a 32-ounce cup. Well, I went into the kitchen to make it, and when I passed back through to my computer in the dining room, I happened to see him curled up in the crown of my black western hat, which is when he got me. After that, he truly became my buddy. He was also a tiger strip tabby. He was also quite the cheeser, as whenever you were eating cheese, he would be right there demanding his cheese. And yeah guys, lots of love and no spoop boops for Samson aka Sammy. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow.